Well, good uh, evening, ladies and gentlemen in India, and good morning in Argentina. Here, I am extremely honored and delighted to welcome Her Excellency Madam Maria Alika. She has appointed as India International Academic Judge in GCW Awards. She has successfully led hundreds of international workshops in countries like Argentina, United Kingdom, India, Nigeria, Siberia, etc. Then she received Global Service Humanity Award from ADI Africa and a gold medalist too. She is also known as an author for ELT books, which is the director of Experience Sharing National Foundation, would like to welcome you in behalf of the team. It's been an honor to have you today. Yeah, it's an honor to have you today here, and I would also like to thank you for your delighting presence on a short notice on my request. So yes, uh, we can begin now with few of the questions, if you don't mind. We have a lot of questions in our mind to have, So yes, of course, madam. From last 20 years, you are subsequently settling so many of workshops internationally and nationally as well in Argentina and all around the globe. So what is your experience in terms of education around the world, wherever you have gone, you have seen what kind of education is there? So what, tell us something about the world education system and policy, a brief of that, please.
Well, in fact, it is really varied because different cultures expect different things from education. But what I think all cultures have in common is that, according to each context, they expect their students to be successful in the future. So, based on the beliefs of each country, and in each region, um, they, they adapt the education system for achieving that aim. Nevertheless, I think globally, educationists are changing the idea of assessment. In fact, summative assessment, that is the one that is accepted everywhere, is is still used, but it should also be aided with some sort of qualitative assessment, which is based on the improvement that students undergo. So, in that sense, I think we are becoming more global. We are sharing the idea. The contents might be different, yes, but the the way in which we are working, at least there is an aim to do so.
Definitely, definitely. It's amazing to hear that how globe we are globally upgrading ourselves, and this is the only thing that we can get from people like you who have given their precious time in the field of education for making it more motivating for us. Madam, my last question for you is, as you are aware that on this globe we are having a large percent of countries which has English as the first language. But there are also countries like India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and a lot where English is the second language. So in this condition, when we see that parents are trying to making it the first language for their child, how we can, number one, what is English in education? Is English is education, or what is English in education? This is my number one question. And then how we can motivate and preserve our mother tongue.
Okay. Big questions. I think English is for education. It's part of education, and it opens doors for expanding our scope of influence because English is an international language. For example, I'm from Argentina, where English is neither the first nor the second language, but most of us study it because we know that we have more chances to reach a wider scope of people. I consider it is necessary to have an international language which connects us to the world. On the other side, I think that mother tongue is our ancestors' language, and we have to respect it and keep it mainly at home. And schools should have a special night where they practice the native language, the mother tongue, which is the real mother tongue, the one of our ancestors. The point is that, according to what I know, there are some countries where different families have different mother tongues because they belong into different social groups. So that makes it difficult at schools to keep a room for that because they need teachers who can speak all the different languages. If it is only one, as it happens in many countries, it should be used for practicing. And I would say that if they want to keep the mother tongue, the first language, alive, it should be associated with activities related to emotions. That is, praising the families, art, um, literature. In that sense, the connection is stronger. The bonds that we generate are better, and it is a pleasurable activity. It is not imposed. On the other hand, English can be imposed because we need it for connecting with the world.
Definitely, definitely. With this, so these are some official questions where we have to. This is also an interview session. So we would like to know about you, a brief about you, about your childhood, about your professional life, and if you can include your family as well, a brief about. Yeah. Please.
Okay, I am married with three daughters and three grandchildren,
Oh,
2 girls and a boy, whom I love really deeply. Those are my first priority, of course. But I love my profession. I've been a teacher for many years, more than I want to remember, because that shows my age. But I worked teaching at different levels of schools, from primary, secondary, tertiary level, university, and I taught teachers to be. I was a teacher trainer for over 30 years, and really it's great to receive nowadays the feedback of my previous students, now colleagues, who value what we have shared together. As a writer, I've written 3 series of books for teaching English as a foreign language at secondary school. Each series has 3 or 4 levels, and I've also written the teacher's books, that is a part of didactics and methodology in general, to aid teachers who don't have much experience to make the best possible use of the activities that I propose in the students' book. And it has the books have also workbooks for extra practice. They are all based on social and emotional learning, because I consider that education is a whole, holistic, um, and students need to be able to reflect on things in life that might help them grow as individuals, as persons, and they must develop the 21st century skills that enable them to connect with the world. That is, they need to improve their personality. And because I think that school is a great place to aid social mobility. People who belong into families who are well educated, have everything at home, but there are many students who don't have that possibility. So knowing about the world, about ways of introducing themselves, ways of showcasing their capacities, is only learned from teachers at school. And so, considering all that, the material I prepare expects to help teachers to expand the content in order to help students develop all the skills needed besides passing exams.
It sounds very amazing when we hear this from you.
I
Oh,
can't hear you.
yeah, it sounds very amazing when we hear this from you, the people like you. It's really awesome to understand that what a professional life is all about, but taking family as a priority and managing both the worlds together. The the only capability that a woman should have all the time to managing both the worlds together. So it's really awesome. Here, um, if you have gone through the method of, if we are talking about the paper making, like the test papers which we used to make in the schools, or if you have ever gone through have you ever have any Indian student?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
Yep, I'm
Right.
asking, like, in your whole career, have you ever teached a Indian student?
No, not directly, not face to face. In my workshops, I know that there have been
Okay.
Indian students, but that was cosmopolitan work. I mean, I had students from many different countries, so I have never prepared a workshop or a course especially devoted to Indian students. But I collaborate with Namaste magazine, in
Okay.
which I write some articles, and there I try to figure out what Indian audience would like to read. I'm getting better acquainted with the culture and with the perspectives of Indian people because of that. I'm curious.
Definitely. Here, if we are talking about schooling in India, the different levels of schooling, which is primary, secondary, and then the higher one. Here, if we have to enhance the level of English, the capability of speaking English in a child, then what are the basic steps to be taken for making English as an sort of language which is we are familiar with? How to make English as a familiar language, and what is the role of English? My question, isn't it? Please.
So for kids, the best way to approach them is by through stories. Storytelling is a great, and this is not a systematic teaching, but in the sense that we are not teaching grammar and vocabulary especially. But since they are curious about the story and they and the characters that are appealing, kids learn without knowing that they are learning. And helping them to retell the stories makes them speak naturally the language they are learning. I would really leave aside the idea of teaching grammar and vocabulary per se. I would use stories, games, and a lot of mindfulness to help them to make the language there, as I say. The idea is I want to express something. I don't know how to do it. I ask my teacher, and I'm able to do it. That is the process we follow at home with our first language. The point is that the teacher needs to be prepared for that. So it has to be planned. Teachers need to prepare in advance to give the answers the students need. And that is a key point. Yes, because we need to show kids that learning is feasible, it's possible. They can do it, and if we doubt, we have a problem.
And what, according to you, how the pandemic, which is, if I'm talking about the coronavirus, how this has impacted on education in Argentina?
Well, in Argentina, we had been speaking about the use of internet and ICT in general um, for over 10 years, and not all teachers were willing to include ICT in their lessons. Well, the pandemic made us all work with ICT, and that was harder for the ones who rejected it at the beginning. We saw in doing this that concepts are important, but they are not the most important thing, because we have to establish priorities as regards what to be tested, because teaching online was not the same as teaching face-to-face. On the other hand, not all houses had connectivity, so we had to make use of other means to reach the students. But pandemic also showed how important teachers are, because luckily for us, because this question of interacting in the classroom, working collaboratively, joining different students of different levels is really an excellent way of helping the weaker ones to grow, and the stronger students, the more advanced students, also to learn, because they are helping others to learn. And that is another lesson to be learned that helping others, we can also grow. It's not just a very selfish view of our improvements that we learn on our own and we develop, but we can develop if we are helping others grow as well.
Here, if we are talking about education, so education is a worldwide, thing which will never gonna end. There's a lot of perspectives in education which we can go further. By the way, if we are talking about decision making in India, if I am talking about India, which is known as one of the very young country. India is a very young country where we have a lot of aspirations, aspirative ideas. But and let me tell you, madam, that India is also number one, not number one exactly, but on the top countries for policy making in education. But where we are sophisticated at the point that when it comes to implementation of that policy, so we are somewhere we are not exactly implementing it well. The committee which is assigned to make the policy, they are of known and they are qualified, well qualified, highly qualified people, and they design the policy in a very, in a very well manner. But when it comes to the lower level, where it should be implemented, maybe in the government or in the private schools, it the situation of the policy which is exactly the opposite, which is which is sended, it's not that, it's remain different from what we have here. If we have to if we have to make people aware, here in India we have a lot of policies from the government to make educate each and every single child. But here there are many parents who used to send their children, not many, but there are suddenly there are many in the rural areas which used to send their ward in the field to grow crops, maybe to cut crops, and in the activities, such activities. So how we can make them aware, how we can show them that how education can be a game changer.
Well, I think we we can think of practical issues workshops. That is, showing the teachers um, some ready-made recipes, we would say, that could be applied and followed, because not everybody is prepared, and policies might be great, but if the people who have to implement them doubt or are not up to the level of the change, and we know that sorry, we have to make a mind shift. So that takes time. So in the meantime, what we could do is to prepare certain recipes, as I said, which could be implemented and checked. Yes, followed by the people who really have prepared the policies and are really acquainted with them. And as regards the families in the rural areas or something like that, what I suggest is generally to work on certain projects to be achieved, in which even the family can be involved, because in that way we make them realize the value they have in the education of their kids. I mean, for example, if they grow crops, we could prepare a project on how to improve this production of crops, of what they can do after they ripe the crops. Yes. Um, in that way, the children will work with the language and information, biology, math, business, vocabulary, whatever, should be um, uh, many subjects involved in the project, yes, as a curricular activity, but the information might be provided by parents. In that case, they feel that they are part of the education. They get involved, and the the whole family grows together. Yeah, I don't know if I'm clear enough of what I'm saying.
Definitely, definitely. I have gone through whatever you have said well. It's always a moment of great joy to interact with people out of India, from the globe, especially from the European countries, which we used to say that they have a very, very rich heritage and culture. Here, if today, as if I could say, then ESNF, which is Experience Sharing National Foundation, I am giving direction to. This is a very, this is like a startup, which was we have started it in the early 2021 in the month of June, and I'm honored to say that we have made around more than a 50 or 50 sessions around the globe. And because as a director of the age 14 years, at the age of 14 years I have started this, and now I am of 15. So it gives me great joy that when you know this is a very important part of my life, a very precious thing which I have started, and that's what have given me inspiration from people like you. I have many of my colleagues, not exactly colleagues but mentors, who have trained me in a way from Brazil, from Armenia, from the various parts of the globe. And that's why today, when we talk, we can have a better communication, we can have a better understanding, and that's what needed in the world we are today. You know, it's in English we say, um, I have forgotten the lines, but they're beautiful lines. Learning from each other. It's learning from each other. So this process never, never have to stop. By the way, have you ever planned to visit India?
Oh, that is one of my dreams, really, because I'm in yoga, and I'm really I have learned a lot, and I have really profited from practicing yoga and the philosophy, and that is why I consider that the top of the icing could be visiting the country and having the possibility of um, working there in a way um, for my personal growth. My teacher here in Argentina lives 9 to 10 months in India and comes to Argentina, and I see that the spiritual life she has, and I really admire that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that is something I feel is part of the culture. And I believe, I don't know, I imagine, because I've never been there, that it must be a sort of part of the atmosphere within certain areas in in the country. So that is something I would like to live.
It's really been amazing. I would like to know that what's the weather in Argentina?
What's sorry?
Weather in Argentina.
Um, I can't hear the word.
The
What's
weather in Argentina.
the best thing in Argentina, what I can, what I consider good. That is what you asked me.
Okay, as I know, usually Argentina is a cold country, right? It's a cold country.
The weather.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Well, we have a very vast territory, and so we have from tropical weather to very cold weather. Imagine that we have part of our land in Antarctica, and the other one is next to Brazil. So we have mountains on the west and the sea coast on the right. So we have lots of different kinds of weather. Um, and the country itself, as geographically speaking, is very rich because we have all the different climates and all the different landscapes, very beautiful places to visit for tourism. The people sometimes don't know how to make use of that. And that is why, as a country, we are not growing as we should be growing. Um, but I believe in that sense that education can make a big change because the point is that we can never choose what we don't know that exists. So if we educate people and they understand the value of making an effort to grow, we might really grow together better.
It's an amazing factor. Here, today I have learned a lot, I have learned so many of things, and there are so many confusion which you have cleared. Here, if before ending this wonderful session, which I never want to attend, end, but as we have the thing which I would like to ask is, as tell us, teach me a brief, few words of the Argentinian mother tongue. The
Argentinian mother tongue is Spanish,
Okay.
but we have our own Spanish, as India has its own English and South Africa has its own English. Yes, we make some changes. We don't speak of tú, we speak of vos, while Spanish speakers say tú debes hacer esto, we say vos tenés que hacer esto. So we have a different way of expressing ourselves, but it is a very rich language which allows us to speak our minds clearly, and that is good. I think that new generations are lacking vocabulary. We are losing many lexical items, and we should try to work on that. I think many people are doing that. They are trying to prepare workshops to encourage young people to read, even though they read on the laptops or tablets. It doesn't matter. They need to go on reading because the more vocabulary they have, the better ideas they can develop. And English and Spanish here is really a rich vocabulary for achieving that.
So what are the main, topic of your workshops? On what specifically, what topic you used to choose on which you set your workshops?
Well, it depends on the demand because different people need different things. The first thing we have to know as teachers is that we should meet our students' needs. Nevertheless, I'm very fond of pronunciation. I'm a phonetician. I studied in London um, at the UCL, which is the cradle of phonetics. But at the same time, since I've been a teacher trainer for so many years, and I love teaching, I always update my knowledge as regards new trends, and I really believe in the fact that educators can make the changes. But my workshops are generally associated with